Hello everyone, I did get my tire machines installed over the summer and I'm eager to share some tips with those of you who might not have had any professional experience or who are wondering what you might be getting yourselves into should you buy these machines. First tip, bust the tires with the TPMS sensors at the 12 or 6 o'clock position to avoid damaging them. Tip number 2, understand how your machine's pedals initiate the clamp so that you can get an outside clamp on the wheel without pinching the tire or having the wheel cocked due to excessive travel. Also, look to ensure that all 4 claws are properly seated, especially when you're first starting out.
Okay, when you're setting up this machine, you really want the head of this, the duckbill, to be a decent way off the wheel, because this one will pull quite a bit back towards the wheel. Also, if you want to save your tire, you can take some lube, and I'm not the happiest with this stuff, but it works okay. And then go ahead and put some in there. Also get the head lubed up. Again, I'm not through with this lube, so I use quite a bit of it. I'm going to show you real quickly what I mean by the head of this thing moving quite a bit. This is about where I would have had the head on the wheel. To me, that would have been pretty far out. I'm going to step around to this other side and hopefully let you guys see this. So here we are. And mind you, this is a 205 60/15, so this is nothing stiff that should be causing us any troubles. But watch what happens here. I am right now touching that wheel with no real effort there. All right, so you are going to have contact. If you're really picky like me, then you're going to want to make sure that you account for that. I've had this thing 3/8, close to half an inch off when I was doing really stiff sidewall tires, 205 50/15, etc. There you can see that about 1/8 of an inch that we've got to work with. And you can also see a reason why I don't really care for this lube. It's been maybe a minute since I've sprayed this stuff. It's a very hot, humid day. And with this level of humidity, it shouldn't be drying that much. There's no real lubrication happening there. You'd be better off with some soap and water. Okay, we've got our outside clamp going on. We've got it pulled up over the lip here. Again, as I just mentioned, this lube kind of sucks, so I'm going to hit it again because I don't want to rip this bead. It is a little bit of an older tire. Another tip, something I haven't seen a lot of people doing, you must, if you want to avoid in the long term rip beads and things, you must lift up right here on this tire and help it keep the pressure off the bead here. Let's go ahead and go around. There you go. And you can see that really just pulls it right on up. You want to get it in the valley here, same deal. And then I've seen so, man alive. It's funny when you don't have to do something low profile. Now, they sell with the machine, I suppose you can get it. I don't even know why I save this thing. This thing's garbage. This is supposed to slide over your tire spoon. I'm literally throwing it away. That is the last thing you want to be doing.
All right, pause. My friend Ray came over and we talked about tires. He's a professional and has a lot of experience just as I do, and he brought up an excellent point. I'm left-handed, and so when you see me pulling out the tire spoon, it is a situation where it's quite easy for me to pull it out and have the tip of the tire spoon come up in the air. Ray mentioned that many of his employees who are right-handed, if they try the same technique, due to the natural motion of your wrist coming back and your elbow moving down, that a lot of his employees over the years, not often, but on occasion, have scratched sometimes very expensive wheels when that tire spoon would come out and slam down onto the wheel. If you're going to use this technique, which I highly recommend, you must use that left hand to pull it out, or I think Ray's right, you're setting yourself up for worse damage than if you use the plastic protector and let it ride around and risk the small scratches. Your choice, guys. I know what I would do, but again, I think Ray brings up a valid point, and I wanted to include it in this video because I think it's important.
And I'm going to show you something every single person should be doing when they do tires if you want to protect the wheel. Using that piece of garbage is just going to cause small scratches and light dings. It's not going to bail you out. I'm going to bring you over here hopefully and show you exactly what you should be doing every single time you change a tire. Right. So we've got our tire up here. We're ready to start changing it. The more expensive the wheel is, the less I want to damage it, the closer I'm going to be here. And it's as simple as this. This is one hand, no effort. How difficult was that, guys? Pull this out and then rotate the wheel. I'm going to show you on the other side here what our body positioning is like and how we're holding the tire when we go ahead to rotate the table here and rotate that wheel. Okay, we've pulled out the tire spoon. We are ready to rotate the wheel. Once again, it's going to be the same thing that we did when we did the top bead. We are going to put our hand under here and we're going to pull up. Now this again, at 205, 60, 15, this is as easy as they come all day long. But watch what happens here. It takes no time at all, no effort. There you go, and you're off. An important facet to this, guys, is that you want to be ready to stop at any moment. Anytime there's any binding, any crazy stretching, and part of that, yes, I understand, comes with experience, you need to make sure that you're ready to stop and go in reverse after you've made your adjustments of how you realize the bead wants to be pushed or pulled, and then you're all set, okay? We've got this off. I believe it to be a rim leak, so let's get started in looking for that. Next tip. When you get a rim leak, stop with the nonsense of those wire brushes at all. You need to get your angle grinder out with a cup wire wheel. This is actually the last style of wheel you should be using right here. Terrible mistake. It will throw those wires off approximately at testicle level. That's not a joke, that's for real. Used to hate these things. You want the braided wire brushes, those last much longer. They're not throwing things at your business, and they do a cleaner job. Now this will work because it was on sale at Harbor Freight for $1.50, so you know, I can, I guess, put up with that. Now next we're going to move on to another tip, because you'll notice down there this wheel doesn't look too terrible at all. I'd expect something a lot worse out of a rim leak, but I'm going to show you a little bit of an old school tip here that, if I had to guess, is no longer a problem, but we're going to bring it in today because you might encounter this like I have today. This barcode on the bead is normally of little consequence, not going to cause you a problem. However, the Michelin's back when would put this barcode there, and not on all the tires as I recall. You'd have to pick them off on occasion, certain models, but not all the tires. However, this barcode has just enough of a thickness and a lip to it, and I can actually feel here on the bead where the corrosion from the wheel combined with the thickness of this barcode, and maybe it promotes it, I'm not sure if it's the adhesive, what it is, but in the long run it was way better to just pull all of the barcodes off of the beads like this than it was to have them come back. It saves you a lot of time in the long run. And honestly, what I can do here is get a screwdriver and show you guys just how easy this is. We would have a little screwdriver like this in the shop, and you just get under here and get it started. And back when they were new, they wouldn't rip like that. So you're not digging into the bead, you're just scraping off the sticker. I can tell this one's going to be fun because it's so old. All right, as lawnmowers go throughout the neighborhood, let's take a look at this wheel. Cleaned it up. You're not trying to get every speck off. You can see where it'll take the finish away where there's more corrosion. Where there's relatively no corrosion, it's actually not too bad. Interestingly enough, here you'll notice this big spot of bare metal, and the clip-on wheel weight really dug into this, so that wasn't helping anything there with that corrosion. And then let's show you how to remove the valve stem. You just take your diagonal cutters, push them in there, and might have to pull it up a little bit, give it the old cut, get rid of it, and then the valve stem will come right out. Did this upside down. I would normally never do that, but I just wanted to be able to show you guys what that looks like. On this machine, by the way, when you press down, you see how you get that slow action there? That can really help position the wheel, then release it and it'll go full speed. All right. After we have cut out the valve stem, you kind of want to use your same screwdriver you used to pry off the barcode to just make sure there was some corrosion in this hole. And I just kind of scraped at it a little bit with the screwdriver, and now we're good to go. In regard to the valve stem, we're not a high production shop here, so give it a little spritz of lubricant, and then we're going to take our tool here, thread it on, and rather than using it as intended where you break it over and pull up on the wheel, what we're always going to do, because I don't want to mar this wheel, I'm just going to pull straight up and it pops right in. It's virtually no effort. You're not going to strain yourself. You could do that all day. There's your new valve stem. I see too many people bending this thing over and using the lip of the wheel as a pry bar. Why would one do that? I don't know. We're going to go DOTs out. That's how this thing came anyway. So I'm just going to put a little bit of lube on this thing. By a little, I mean a lot. Try not to get too much in the actual tire itself, because when you do, it can throw off your balance. So it's another thing I hate about this lubricant is you pretty well got to spray it everywhere. Now, your head should be in the same spot, not a big deal. We are going to not just, this is something I have seen people do on the internet. We're not just going to, kick around and start with the rotation of the table yet. You want to give it a good push over. Quite frankly, a tire like this, in my old days, a little younger and fitter, with a better grip, I could have just sent this thing right around, all right? Not a big deal, so we're gonna do that now. Boom, there it is. Again, I'm just gonna give a little spritz here. For the top, we're not gonna need a ton. Make sure you have the bead over the top and underneath. 2 fists on the sidewall, and you are going to press down and essentially ride this around the entire time. I never come up off of this. Sometimes, do a little of that, pull a lever, send it out of the way, and you're good to go. Now, I will generally fill it up just as is. Depending on the tire, what I might do is pull it out, set it down, and you, generally speaking, with no core in the valve stem, you're not going to have a problem seating the bead on this. And quite frankly, if you use a high quality lubricant on the bead, you'll never have a problem seating it. And by that I mean, we had, back in my day, the old BF Goodrich, who here remembers the old Scorcher TAs? Those things were a real pain to seat the bead. So, yeah, it wouldn't be the first time that and I could see here some bubbles coming out. I am going to spray this thing back down. I know I got it nice and clean, but I didn't really like what I was seeing here. And sometimes with an older wheel tire combination, you might be in a position to where you need to take a dead blow hammer, something non-marring, and give a little rap on the sidewall.
Another great tip is to have a spray bottle with a good amount of dish soap and water in it. If you let that sit on the wheel for a few minutes, you'll have a nice amount of frothy bubbles where you can see the slowest of leaks. I can't imagine using a dunk tank when this works so much better. The sidewall on this tire had some pitting from the corrosion, so I hosed it down and let it sit to check my work. Fortunately, it was good to go.
What we're going to do, obviously this stud has to go through the center hole of any wheel that you want to balance. And so I know that it'll fit. When you get to be a pro, yeah, big deal, right? I'm not trying to brag, I'm just stating fact. What the pros will be able to do is pick up the wheel and use that stud to knock out the center cap without damaging it. If you're not to that level yet, use the back of a small hammer, maybe a screwdriver, whatever, and knock it out without bending back any of the tangs. And I'll tell you right now, with this particular wheel, that somebody has already damaged that, and you can't see it, but this one right here was bent over, and I can guarantee you what happened was they hit it with something and bent this tang over. So I've still got the majority of them, and it'll be fine, but it is disappointing to see. Now, I always front cone my wheels, so, and you'll have to excuse me because these cones are slightly different than what I'm used to. But small cone on the front, take your, do that. Now, again, here I am. All right, it wants to spin. No, good to go there. Run it back a little bit. If you have to, reach in and hold the hub, and you'll get it nice and tight. Now, that's all we need to do. I do have some weight in here, so I'm going to remove that real quickly. And I'm just going to use the screwdriver to pry. If I cared a little bit more about these wheels, I would not use the screwdriver. I would use something that was plastic or a pair of pliers to grab it and twist without marring the wheel at all. But these are old and have seen more than their fair share. I've set this up for aluminum 1, the mode on here. It's going to put the tape weight on the very inside of the wheel, and then on the front side of the wheel it's going to be on the inside in that smooth lip section just behind where whatever spokes are there are present. So always give it a spin. This is not a high-speed balancer, so you don't need much. Press start and it'll throw the leftover lubricant on you, which always feels nice. And this thing pretty well stops it by itself. It doesn't like to be stopped. The old Coates 1050 solid state that we used to use, you would come in with your hip and stop it. But with this, you want to let it do its thing. It's calling for 1 1/4 ounces on each side. I'm going to use some wheel cleaner to clean it up and place the tape weights. That's pretty straightforward, as is the rest of the process. I think that's pretty well it for tips today. If you guys have any questions, comments, you want to see something else, you want to see a full in-depth review of these machines, please go ahead and post up in the comments. I have been pretty satisfied with these machines, but at the same time, there are definitely areas where I feel like they could improve. For the money, they cannot be beaten unless you've got a local place near you that's getting rid of an old machine or something like that. I can give you some tips on some of it. But until then, guys, thanks for watching, and I'm going to balance this wheel and get it back on the car. We'll catch you next time.